Welcome back. New York City's first African-American mayor, David Dinkins, of course. Well, he's out with a new memoir, and in it, among other things, he claims he lost his re-election bid to Rudy Giuliani back in '93 because of racism. In the book, he writes, "When asked why I lost, I used to say, 'Why do you think?' I didn't want to say it out loud, but it's time. Now I say racism, plain and simple." He also had some pretty terse words here for the one-time opponent, Rudy Giuliani, saying his underlying message was clear for all to see. The city's in terrible financial straits. Do you really want a black man presiding over it in this time of trouble? Went also on to say that in '92, a demonstration by the NYPD included police officers calling Dinkins the N-word. Giuliani, he claims, was, quote, out there all but inciting the police to riot. Now for this and more, we're joined on our panel by Dominic, as we mentioned before, Evan Thies, founder of the Brooklyn Strategies, former aide to Andrew Cuomo, who was mentioned in this, or at least his dad was, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, who you met last segment, and O'Brien Murray, Republican strategist, and Andrew. All right, let's get to first, Dominic. Sour grapes here, or do you think Mayor Dinkins got a point?
It's not sour grapes. I was there, so I know, because he used to complain to me all the time. And the way they're complaining, it's not just Dinkins. Most, well, hold on, LB. Most black elected officials, this is what they do. They complain to, and this is why I know Obama's going to play the race card. They complain to black reporters in private, and they say, "Why are you not doing more to defend me?" And then, so they don't want to be seen as playing the race card. Hold on, OB. Dinkins felt, I know for a fact, he would always say this, "Why do you ask?" when they would ask that question.
And I've heard he's not, this isn't the first time I heard what happened at some of those police rallies.
Of course race played a role.
Did it also have a role that at the time, New York wasn't in a good spot here?
New York wasn't in a good spot. The Korean boycott didn't help him. Out of town, Lee Brown, his police commissioner, African-American police commissioner, every time something went down, Lee Brown wasn't in New York. Everything played a role.
I forgot the nickname. That was great.
Hold on, I'm almost done, OB. Hold on. Let me just finish this one part. I like Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani was a good mayor for New York. But Rudy, and he did what I probably would have done too to get elected. Rudy played the race card, no doubt about it.
But let's go back for a second. Why did he win in the first place? He won in the first place because Mayor Koch wasn't controlling the city enough, and people were getting frustrated. We knew in August.
No. Mayor Koch lost because a black young man was killed by the name of Yusuf Hawkins.
And then what happened during Dinkins' first terms when you're talking about the riots and other things like that? The unrest that got Dinkins elected, the same type of unrest and uncertainty in a city is one thing that hurt him.
It's the same thing that's happening with Obama now.
Secondly, it's
the same thing with Obama.
No, let's go back.
Obama's being undercut at every opportunity Republicans
But let's go back to some of the facts.
They did the same thing with David
But let's
Dinkins.
go back to some of the facts for a second, okay? I ran the Rudy Get Out the Vote back in '93. It's one of my first jobs in New York politics.
The part when he's basically calling the mayor in on
No,
stuff
I ran the Get Out the Vote.
I'm being sarcastic. Go ahead.
So just, and the stump speech I gave back then was that they stole the election in '89, okay? And if you look at the turnout numbers and where things were going, this election, we believe, was stolen in '89 by old politics, number one. Number two, in '93, we ran the greatest opportunity, and it was used in '94 for Pataki as well, to get out the vote the right way and also protect the ballots. We made sure that when there was 90% turnout in areas that were pro-Dinkins at 9 o'clock in the morning, our lawyers showed up and said, "How do you have 90% turnout?" And that's,
Evan,
I also went,
Evan, no, let me bring in a few other guys. Evan, do you think that Dinkins lost it or Rudy won it? Because I remember, I was working at the time with Dinkins, and there was zero enthusiasm going on in the campaign and in the last month here. And a lot of people were tired about a lot of quality of life stuff going on in the city, and they thought that sometimes the mayor was a little bit, let's say, not as attuned to the needs of the city as he could have been, and his police commissioner certainly didn't do him any favors. Which one was it?
I think Dinkins lost it. I mean, look, Rudy definitely did have a good operation. There's no doubt about it back then. If you look at the numbers, it's pretty incredible what happened, considering he's a Republican. And the number of voters just in the general election, Democrat versus Republican in New York, it's staggering that he was able to win like that. There must have been some fear, and I think there was, frankly, especially among white voters in New York, that we were on a decline back to the 70s. And unfairly, I think Dinkins got tagged with a lot of that negative feeling. And those two things led to a Giuliani victory.
I think that's a reasonable assumption. I think that Mayor Dinkins was a effective mayor, given what he was handed. And I still believe that there is room in the analysis for the fact that race was a factor. Anybody try to ignore the race as a factor under David Dinkins is not being realistic.
But it certainly plays to racial fears. If you've got people who aren't feeling safe, given the status of New York City back in the early 90s, and Dinkins himself in the book mentions financial issues and things like that, it certainly hits buttons that may have registered with some voters. I don't know, and I can't say if it was explicitly racist in nature, but certainly exploitative, you would think.
Well, that rally, I remember, there was a lot of talk, and I knew some people who were there. You were probably covering it. You could hear it clear as a bell. It wasn't like you had to go look for it. It was coming from the sides, and it was coming from cops here who weren't too happy. All right, next subject. Speaking of police, Ray Kelly. Not only his name being thrown around as a possible head of the Department of Homeland Security, but being embraced here by the Obama administration. That said, given the backdrop of what we saw in Florida, making the connective here because of stop and frisk and that issue, does that raise a red flag? And I'll start with you on this one, Pastor.
I think Ray Kelly is eminently qualified. As a matter of fact, I don't know anybody else in the country, given his experience, given the nature of New York. I don't know anybody else in the country who's qualified. Anybody else has to come up to his standard. I think it would be so that's what we need. We need somebody like Ray Kelly.
Is there anybody at this table who would think Ray Kelly wouldn't make a great?
Let me just. What if the national policy became essentially stop and frisk of Hispanic Americans? Would that concern anybody, given the nature of the position?
And that's going to be the question.
Or Muslim Americans?
And it's a little bit awkward for the Obama administration. It was surprising how in favor Obama, I think it was today or yesterday.
Yesterday. How quick it was. He was in the same
he said
news
he would
cycle.
make a great, I think him and, it sounds like him and the current FEMA administrator are the front runners, which is, a good competition.
Don't forget.
But it's interesting because his own attorney general, Obama's own attorney, is looking at civil rights violations in New York on stop and frisk. This is a serious political issue in New York. I'd say a top 3 issue right now.
Exactly what Evan said, Dom. It surprised me a little bit.
It won't stop Ray Kelly. Ray Kelly has already served in the federal administration. Ray Kelly is someone who dines at least 2 to 3 times a month privately with Senator Schumer. That's why Senator Schumer pushed his name out there. It's almost a done deal unless something comes up that we don't know about. Stop and frisk is not going to stop Ray Kelly.
I guess it's worth mentioning Obama does not have to run for your re-election. Will never run for anything ever again.
And Ray Kelly's got to figure what to do come January.
Obi, if you stop, I'll let you talk about your favorite thing.
Which one?
Petitions here. And your favorite guy, Elliot Spitzer. What are you doing? Tell everybody about why Obi Murray here is not down with the love gov and why you're questioning here these petitions.
He might cry if he sees that.
Exactly. You saw Dominic's interview. Yeah. So what's your problem?
It's very simple. Elliot Spitzer is trying to re-enter New York politics same way he left, full of lies and deceit. And he may even be breaking laws and doing it and committing fraud. And this process that he went through for
you worked on that soundbite, didn't you?
I've said it. I've been saying it all week. But let's go back. Let's go back.
That those signatures are invalid.
Well, first off, I don't have to prove today. I've got till Monday to prove it. Number one. But number two. I mean, I've looked at these petitions. I've gone through them. You've gone through this process before. You guys have followed this and stuff. It is there are petitions that people have crossed out things and written things on, some initialed, some not. There were petitions. He witnessed himself, which I was kind of surprised at, which normally politicians don't do themselves. Last year I found a candidate who claimed to have seen a dead woman sign his petition. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens in New York petitions. There was public reports about how he paid people to gather these petitions, which may be illegal too. Because you can't pay per signature, you need to pay appropriately, and that's for the lawyers to decide and go through there. There's also questions about whether he enticed...
Historically, Obi, and Evan jump in, these things almost never work, right? When you protest petitions, whether it's a legitimate concern or not, at the end of the day, they almost always stay on the ballot, though, don't they?
I wouldn't say that.
Not at all. Ask Dov Hikind last year how he lost the conservative and Republican. Dov Hikind lost the conservative and Republican lines last year, carried by the party with no opposition, and they still went. People went after him.
Look, it's a low total that you have to get to in a citywide election. It's actually kind of too low, I think.
There's also a constitutional question whether that's appropriate. That may be fought out here too.
But 27,000 is a big number. You've got a lot of homework to do. I don't envy you that. But he's absolutely. I kind of do. I just want to see. But he's totally right that because Spitzer tried to jump in the last second, rush the process so much, it would seem like there'd be a lot of room for.
Oh, he wanted to wait till
absolutely.
yeah.
He's trying to have it both ways. But there would be a lot of errors. Look, there are people that will just fake signatures, and also, by the way, you can get an invalid signature for a lot of different reasons. I mean, you print where you're supposed to sign. You know, you change one letter in your address or whatever it is. You spell something out, whatever it is. The person often who is gathering the signatures says that they are a registered voter.
You're making his day right now.
No,
Yeah.
it's totally possible.
Even Scott Stringer, who is Spitzer's opponent in the Democratic primary for comptroller, has told his supporters, don't challenge the signatures.
That's different. That's a political issue.
There's many. You know, one reason I've said he's doing this, one reason Stringer does not want to challenge petitions, he's auditioning for the New York Times endorsement.
Yes.
If he were to go after them, it would be no good. Also, every dollar Stringer would spend would be $1 less he has to get his name out, which he needs.
He doesn't want to look like he's afraid of Elliot either.
Okay, who cares about Stringer?
We don't have more time on this one.
We don't on this
I do.
one.
I like it.
Reverend, I really appreciate the time here. And again, I think what you said at the top is coming back to our original subject, obviously with the tragedy with the Martin case. Until we can have an honest dialogue about where we are really with race in this country, we're going to see more tragedies like this, and we're not going to get closer to any kind of resolution. But Pastor, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure being with you.
All right. When we come back, we will shift to another one of Obi's favorite subjects, Obamacare. As the House works to repeal Obamacare yet again, surprising new numbers show just how effective, believe it or not, this reform can be in the state of New York. We'll have that after this.